If you've taken any course on prompt design, including mine, you've probably been told to use markup in some way. And this means things like Markdown, XML, and in my case, I like to use semantic tags with little brackets. And you can see what this looks like in some of my lessons about writing with machines on my Substack. But these function as labels for both machines and humans that help you organize prompts into sections. For example, you might have role, context, and task. I've taught this and I still use tags in my own work when creating important reusable prompts. And I get asked constantly whether they're actually necessary anymore, especially now that models keep getting more and more capable. All right, I'm Lance Cummings and welcome to my intermittent or aspirationally bi-weekly podcast that explores deeper research into AI and writing. And this question about semantic tags and Markdown got me digging into recent research on prompt structure and performance. And what I found reframes the conversation just a little bit. The tags aren't really the point. Specificity is the point. The tags just kind of help us get there. But as we move from prompt design into what Anthropic now calls context engineering, tags may matter more than you think, just not for the reasons you might expect. And here's what most people mean when they ask about semantic tags. Does the AI actually perform better when I label parts of my prompts? Does brackets goal do something that I want this to doesn't? We have pretty good research on this now. Sklar and colleagues tested how formatting preserves meaning across 53 tasks and found that formatting alone could swing the accuracy dramatically. But the best format for one model wasn't necessarily the best one for another. Different models often prefer different structures. This is why you should test your prompts as a team and not just go by your gut. But if you're looking for a formatting rule that works everywhere, there really isn't one, and it's kind of a dead end. But the research did find something that works everywhere, and it's not about format at all. It's all about specificity. Pecker and colleagues published a study in February 2025 investigating why small changes to prompts produce wildly different outputs. They traced most of it back to one single cause: prompt underspecification. Not format, not tags. The prompts that produced erratic results were prompts that didn't clearly describe the task, the constraints, or the expected output. Well-specified prompts suffered dramatically less from sensitivity, regardless of formatting choices. Think of it like giving directions. If you told somebody, go to the store, it's underspecified. You might end up at the grocery store, a hardware store, a convenience store 3 blocks away. That's not going to work with your driverless car. But drive to Harris Teeter on College Road, pick up 2 pounds of ground beef from the butcher counter and use the self-checkout. Now that format barely matters. The task is actually embedded in the sentence structure itself. It will constrain the output, whether you text it, email it, scribble it on a sticky note. This maps directly onto the 3-component model I teach on prompts: task, context, and content. These 3 categories were never about the brackets. They were about forcing you to answer 3 separate questions. What do I want the AI to do? What does it need to know about the situation? And finally, what source material should it work with? The tags were one way to organize those answers in a useful way, but the answers themselves are what drives the performance of the AI. Now, I should complicate this just a bit because the landscape has shifted. Tam and colleagues showed in 2024 that focusing structured output formats significantly degraded reasoning in AI models. So imagine you ask a colleague to analyze a customer support problem and give you the recommendation. Normally, they read through the tickets, notice some patterns, and reason their way to a conclusion before giving you some sort of report. But now imagine instead you hand them a form, fill in the recommendation first, and then the reasoning field. That's essentially what was happening when models were first forced to produce structured output like JSON or XML. The model placed the answer or the format before the reasoning, skipping the step where it actually works through the problem through its inner prompting. Their solution was a two-step approach: reason in natural language first, and then convert to a structured format. Now, this has changed a bit with the introduction of reasoning models now reasoning internally before generating output. Claude 4 models use what Anthropic calls extended thinking. They work through the problem behind the scenes and then produce the response. The model handles that reason first, format second step on its own. That doesn't really make the finding obsolete, not entirely. For content professionals working with structured authoring like data or XML or schemas, or even just the technical documentation, the problem still holds for how you write your prompts. You get better content by describing what you want in natural language and letting the model generate that substance rather than forcing a rigid format from the start. The reasoning models are better at this than their predecessors, but the content still benefits from clear natural language. Structure your context, not your commands. In that phrase, structure your context, is where tags become important, not less. In September 2025, Anthropic published a piece on what they call context engineering. Building with language models is becoming less about finding the right words for your prompts and more about curating the right configuration of context. This is the full set of information the model sees at any given moment, which does include your prompt, but also tools, documents, conversation history, reference material, and system instructions. It's a whole ecology of information. This is where my own practice has evolved. I actually use more XML style tags now than I did a year ago, not fewer. This is for two reasons. First, I work primarily in Claude, and Anthropic still explicitly recommends XML tags in their current documentation for Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6. They're clear that there is no magic tag names. Instructions doesn't outperform my rules, but XML has a delimiter system that does help Claude parse complex prompts or content. That's a model-specific advantage, but not a universal rule. That's really the move from prompt engineering to context engineering in practice. You're no longer crafting one single message. You're designing an information environment. Second, most of what I'm putting into these prompts these days isn't instructions. It's actually content, course material, style guides, reference documents, background research, notes. When you're loading a context window with thousands of tokens of source material, tags become boundaries between what the AI should read and what it should do, and what are the functions of the different parts of the content. They're separating content from instruction, different categories of content from each other, and labeling those different blocks. That's really the move from prompt engineering to context engineering in practice. Here are 3 guidelines you can take with you going forward. Keep the categories, hold the brackets loosely or whatever formatting you're using. Task, context, and content remain the most research-supported way to organize what you give an AI. Whether you wrap them in XML, markdown headers, or just write clear paragraphs matters far less than whether you're actually specified all 3. Use tags to structure your context, not just your prompts. As your AI workflows grow beyond single prompts, tags become architecture, your way to design the information. They're a coordination tool for humans and a parsing tool for the AI models. That value only increases as your information environment gets more and more complex. Let the model reason naturally, then apply structure. If your final output needs to follow a structured format, describe your intent in natural language first. Reasoning models handle this better than ever, but the content still benefits from natural language instructions over rigid constraints up front. The real lesson here isn't about brackets or XML, it's that we've moved past single prompt optimization. Context engineering means designing information environments, and the tools we use to organize those environments matter way more than they did when all we had was a little chat box and a one-shot prompt. If someone on your team is wrestling with whether tags still matter, go ahead and share this episode. The answer is actually more interesting than simple yes or no, right? And if you want to go deeper on building the kind of systematic prompt and context frameworks we talked about today, that's exactly what my course on writing with machines covers. It's designed for content professionals who want a repeatable process, not just a collection of tips. All right, I'm Lance Cummings, and until next time, keep prompting or keep building your context.